Good morning, Claude Rossiger. Speaking today about architecture. This is following up on a segment, the immediately preceding segment, on what character we would like for our community and what character it exhibits. I have my ideas, but everyone may have an idea and they may not be the same, and that's fine. So please take these comments as observations and suggestions. Let's begin with the architecture that we see around us, particularly that of the last 20 years. And my own view is that it's not very happy. It hasn't improved the town. The town had a relatively harmonious character that was agreeable. It was pleasant. It was easy to live with. Now, not so much. You enter town from Route 28 from the south, and you come upon the new high school, which I'm not the only one to have commented that it much resembles an overgrown railroad station. I think we could have done better. The only thing one can say in its favor is that it's better than the 1960s horror that it replaced, which not only was simply ugly, but was also very poorly constructed and required substantial work during its time just to keep it usable. I'll make a comment about that later when we speak about public construction. As we proceed down Main Street, we come upon the new library. Now, if ever dollar store is looking for a location, that's ready to go, because that's about what it looks like. I don't know who thought that that could contribute to the community. Now, as a library, I'm speaking of books and reading and a space to meet. It may be just fine, but it hardly adds to the community. In fact, if someday we need an additional town garage and we opened up 6 overhead doors on one side, well, it would suit that purpose as well. Public buildings ought to add something to community. They ought to become a durable part of it. It leads us to the New Huggins Hospital, which resembles the kind of car wreck architecture that litters the periphery of London, particularly going from the city center to London Heathrow Airport. Every single building out there looks as though it had been designed by 4 separate architects, each one of whom disagreed with the other 3. It's not easily explained. I'm not for, in those circumstances, I'm not for a given style. It can be modern, it can be traditional, it can be many things. 2 things should happen with buildings of that type. 1, they should fit in. And 2, they should be harmonious. They shouldn't look like a poorly put together Lego assemblage. Proceeding down the street, we come to the original offender in the architectural pantheon of the community, the Wolfboro National Bank building, the marble mausoleum on the corner there, which I'm told is today a kind of, I don't know, utility building for Brewster Academy or something. It had to, I guess, be put to some purpose. And someday, perhaps it'll be knocked down. I don't know. Everything is not negative. The restoration of the Pickering House is handsome and preserves for the community a very handsome building that has long been part of the community. So that's a plus. Unfortunately, not far down Main Street, there's the new Congregational Church. Now, I'm all in favor of the churches in town. This has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that what we got is a kind of Motel 6 that replaces what was a pretty old stone church that really was part of our community. Now, the congregation surely have a right to do what they want with their building, with their church. But I've long been in construction, and the story that went around is that the cost of repairing a failing wall of the old church would have been so great that it was more economical to knock it down and build a new church. If that's true, I can tell you that that was not a correct analysis. You could certainly have removed an entire wall of the old church, rebuilt it, and had it in very good order for far less money than was spent. I'm not calling into question the decision of the congregation, but I don't think there's much good you can say about the building, particularly when you compare it to what it replaces. We go to our town hall. I've commented on it before. I didn't think it was a wise economic decision to refurbish it as a town hall. We had other options. I've just mentioned Huggins Hospital, where an entire wing was used by the town while the town hall was being refurbished. And to the complete satisfaction of the employees of the town who work there, they thought it was a great facility for that. But fine, the community decided to refurbish the town hall. And if it was to be done, then it should have been done well. But if we go to it today, which after all is only a few years after the work was done, we can already see that it wasn't well done. There are things that are lifting. Trim is not holding up well. We hardly need to mention the pompously named Great Hall or Great Room, I'm not quite sure which, and the acoustics. Now, anyone who's ever built any kind of a large hall could have told you that if you built a large hall with all hard surfaces, ceiling, walls, and floor, you would have horrible acoustics. The acoustics are so bad that it's very difficult for those seated in the room to hear what is being said. Whether something will be done, I don't know. There are solutions. But how did this happen? How could no one have known? No one have anticipated this? Well, let's move on down through town, where what used to be a relatively harmonious New England village has now acquired structures that are finished in, I would call it, a kind of new and touristy way. I don't know how to call it. I'm thinking of Kennebunkport in Maine, which is kind of, you know, little storefronts of this and that, and so on. It's not that everything should look the same. It shouldn't. It should just look as though it fits. It's awkward to build a horse with ostrich legs. And I have the impression that's a little bit what we've been doing. Now, every private owner is certainly entitled to, to realize his dream. But maybe there could be some sort of guidance. I'm not talking about regulations or constraints and all that nonsense. I don't like that. But at least a common vision put on paper. That, it would seem to me, could be worthwhile. And if we go out of town on Route 28, well, that's a different story altogether. We basically, because of a sleight of hand, years ago, we converted everything from the junction of Route 109 and 28, called Center Street now, into just commercial lots, a strip. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. I would ask, is this what we really want? And are there no solutions even yet to see the community to a happier outcome? Now, I acknowledge what I've shared with you is very much a personal opinion. Maybe others don't see it the same way, and maybe a large part of the community today is indifferent. I fear that. I fear that. I'm not sure that we're quite as much a community as we once were. But let's address those issues when we get to the segment on what might be done, which will be the next one. Thank you very much.